This week's episode is sponsored by Ari.
You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. My name is Alan Weitz.
And I'm Jill Waterman. Before we start today's show, I'm jumping in with a quick programming update. As you may know, B&H is closed each year in observance of the Passover holiday. Since Passover starts on April 5th this year, the podcast will be taking a brief hiatus until Thursday, April 13th. The holiday ends at sundown that evening, so our next episode will go live a few hours later than usual that day. Following this brief pause, we'll revert to our new schedule of a 6 a.m. release Eastern Time. As always, we'd love to hear what you think about our new morning release and get feedback on the show in general. Please drop us a line in the comments section of Apple Podcasts, on the B&H Explorer blog, or wherever you access the show. Back to you, Alan.
Wedding photography is a reliable business model for many people out there, regardless of the economic climate. These momentous events come in all shapes and sizes, from intimate elopements to traditional services to exotic experiences. Even more variable are the fees a wedding photographer can command for their work. Today, we're going to speak with two photographers, former competitors, James Christianson and Otto Schulze, whose decision to team up as the duo James X Schulze led them to the high end of this spectrum, the luxury wedding market. Welcome to the show, James and Otto.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So here's the story. Otto moves to South Africa, to James' home base in Boulder, Colorado. And you, Otto, contacted James, and the two of you met for coffee initially so Otto can essentially size up the competition. Instead, you guys hit it off and become friends and live happily ever after, just like in movies, right?
That's it.
So was meeting with a competitor to compare notes something you had done in the past? Is this a common practice with wedding photographers, or was this just a little thing you thought up on your own?
I think it's quite common practice, especially back then. It's quite a good community in the wedding photographer community. So it was quite normal. For me, James was just consistently, I was losing so much work to him. Eventually, I was like, look, I have to meet this guy. Aside from being a big fan of his work. So we met and became fast friends. And that's kind of the short version of it.
So something that I'm just curious about is the high-end wedding market part of a South African culture, or is that something that we kind of have here?
Yeah, no, it's definitely an American thing. I mean, there is luxury weddings in South Africa for sure.
Oh, sure. There's wealthy people all over the place.
Yeah, and Cape Town, especially foreigners coming down. But with that said, for wedding photography, it's quite limited in South Africa. So the US, the market is just on a whole nother level.
Well, it's not, and I think it's actually very specific to specific cities. I grew up in the New York region, and I've been to some weddings that are just ridiculous, where 600 people is
yeah.
I've been there, and some ridiculous things. I was at one wedding where, in between each course, they had Broadway actors coming in to reenact acts of current Broadway shows. I mean, this is like just off the top.
That's incredible.
Now I live 100 miles north in Connecticut, and around, there's no such thing as a big wedding like that over here. The people look at, what are you, nuts? That's what they do in New York. So I would say this is kind of a regional thing. Is that accurate to say?
I think a lot of the clients are coming from certain regions, maybe the bigger metropolitan areas, but these weddings are happening all over the world. And we find a lot of the luxury weddings are 60 to 100 people, not 600 people. Certainly in New York, we can see weddings that are 400 or 500 people, but it's really a lot of times about the experience that 80 people are getting to get to have on some island in the middle of the Pacific, or
a ranch.
On a ranch in Wyoming.
So they're smaller, but bigger in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a little bit sharper on your guest list for sure.
But Alan, you'll be surprised where these weddings are happening, honestly. Middle of nowhere, private property, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, all over. Most random little places.
Well, I would imagine there are wonderful little pockets that are hidden away all over the place that many people don't know about, but they're there and they're available. You just have to know that they exist and make it work.
Yeah, and I think if means is no end for you, like it is for these clients, you can essentially take any property and transform it, right? So I think that's in play as well.
Interesting. So something I'm a little bit curious about. Now, you began by collaborating on larger wedding projects. What was it like working together on those earlier projects, and what, if any, changes have you made to your work and workflow and communication processes since then to adapt to this new way of working?
You know, when we first came together, the idea was I kind of had a more editorial style, if you will, and Otto was a documentary photographer. So our thinking was, hey, let's combine these two things and a client will get kind of the best of both worlds. And what has happened really is that we have rubbed off on each other so much that as we're going through a gallery now, sorting through the images to decide what to keep, it is sometimes difficult to distinguish who photographed what.
That's a nice fluidity. That's really nice to be able to have.
Yeah, our work has really shifted.
It's like a big dance. It's like when we had our own companies, we both had second shooters, right? And so you'd have to cover what they shot and assign things to them. And when me and James started collaborating together before James and Schulze, that's what really drew us into this experience, is the flow. It's like a big dance between the two of us. I can feel what he's thinking, what he's doing, and you just kind of go back and forth.
To become collaborators, that involved doubling your income to better ensure that both of you and your respective families continue to eat and have a roof over your heads. What steps did you have to take to make all of this become a reality where you're doubling up together and therefore you have to double what you're earning to make it all work? How did they make that happen?
Yeah. That was the stark reality of it is,
right.
Otto has 4 kids. I have 3. So it's not like that was a small decision. And in fact, I had multiple people calling me going, what are you doing? Like, you've been so successful. Why are you going to make this collaboration happen? And kind of going back to your question previously, I can't speak for Otto, but for myself, one of the things that drew me to weddings was this ability to truly just kind of walk around a wedding and really connect with people and have creative freedom to chase small moments or to chase beautiful light. After a while, as a wedding photographer, you miss a couple things here or there. All of a sudden, you kind of start feeling frozen by these big moments that don't allow you to go chase these other things. And for me, that's one of the things that I immediately recognized was this ability and this creative freedom.
Yeah.
Because the wedding has to be covered, right? You can't miss the first kiss. You can't miss a photo of grandma. But all those things kind of don't allow you to
take risks.
To take risks, yeah. And so having 2 of us has really changed the game, because one of us can always be covering that wedding and the other one can be off chasing. And that's the dance that Otto's referring to is the ability to back and forth, take those risks.
I would imagine that also comes in pretty handy. You're dealing, one of the reasons that I never went into wedding photography, and I had some people saying, you really should do it. You can make a lot of money there. The idea of shooting a once-in-a-lifetime event that if you blow it, redoing things is not the easiest thing to do. And I always found that to be very, very intimidating. And you're also dealing with people at the high end of the spectrum of stress, especially the day of. There's a reason why they call it Bridezilla and everything else. And I would imagine that being the 2 of you working together, you're able to like share and bounce that stress factor back and forth depending on who's giving that stress and which one of you might be able to handle the situation better. Is that something you guys do tag teams with?
Absolutely. That's what we say often. The biggest skill we have is our ability to read people and read a room, right? Especially on a wedding weekend. So we do that all weekend. We're watching for mom. We're watching for the bride, right? We're watching things shift and change in the room and on the day. And so that's a huge part of the equation for sure.
I have a question about the collaborative aspect and the dance. Do you discuss who's going to be covering what beforehand, or do you have secret signals that you share back and forth?
It's like the third base coach. You can like pull your earlobe and the other guy jumps in. I love
Side note, James, we should definitely get secret signals. Why haven't we thought of this? Yeah. That's way cool. Thank you, Jill.
Jill is a genius. Yeah.
I'm onto something.
Absolutely.
Honestly, the only thing we decide every wedding, whoever gets to go photograph the bride getting ready has to photograph the family photos. And that's really it. Other than that, we just flow back and forth. You know, it's two principles. The client, the planners, the team understand that. And so for us, it's really that dance is uninterrupted. You know, we move with the group. We have no demands. Like, this is the timeline. It must go this way. We need time for photos. We just move with the group.
In doing my homework, I was watching one of your interviews, and you make mention of the fact, and this is very important, that one of the first things each of you had to do was shake this middle-class mentality off, because you're not dealing with people who think the same way we do, meaning that all of us are essentially middle-class people.
Hell yeah.
They are different than us. They think different than us. How did you adapt to that? It's easy to say you got to think like them. How do you think like them? What kind of mental process do you put yourself through so that you could sit down across the table as equals?
It's a good question. I think a large part of it is experience. Having been in that room over and over and over again. And people hate the term fake it till you make it. You may not feel confident, but confidence is the currency of the successful. If you can bring confidence in who you are and what your skills are, whether that's with a camera or skills with people or both, that will take you a long way to being able to move through any room, whether that's middle class or upper class or wealthy or not. I think where the psychology really had to shift for us was in the sales process.
Yeah.
Otto, if you want to take that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, because for us as middle-class boys, whenever we want to buy something, the first question is, can I afford it, right? Do I have the money to buy this thing? Where if you're...
Do I have enough credit cards?
Right, exactly, right? And so you can see that so clearly if you go to a Macy's, for example, right? Buy one, get one free, 50% off, get the credit card, and we'll give you another 10%, etc. But if you go to a Prada store or a Gucci store, there's none of that, right? And so this was a huge shift for us because we realized a few years in, we were approaching the sales process with a buying psychology of a middle-class person. So the first problem we wanted to solve was money. And we were actually devaluing ourselves in doing that with the luxury client. And so the moment we realized, their buying psychology is only about want, means it's not the issue. Once we shifted that, the business completely transformed.
Very interesting. I cannot help but remember I was once watching a morning news segment, and after the heavy news, of course, they always give you a little fluff piece. For those of you who thought that you had problems, and they started telling a story about a family in Greenwich, Connecticut. They married off their daughter, and they had the wedding ceremony at their estate in Greenwich on the waterfront with 400 guests. And then they rented a 747 and they flew all their guests to the English countryside to a castle for a long weekend celebration.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty cool. Now, here's the best part, okay?
Yeah.
About 3 months later, everybody who went to the wedding got a new invite. And it basically said, due to the fact that we're not satisfied with the quality of the video of our daughter's wedding, we are restaging the event so that the video and stills can match. We strongly urge you to dress as close as possible to the original event so that the stills and video will match. Now, you got to be in a special place to be able to even think of something like that.
Right. But see, that's the big difference, right? So for a person like that, if you come at them with the idea that money is a problem, you're not going to be successful at selling it. But if you understand the only thing is want, it really opens up, right? Money is not a problem. Create the want, understand what they want, how they look at their event, meet them right there, and you make the sale. honestly.
What are the biggest wants of the luxury client? Are there particular things that you found people really go for, or that really lights up their eyes when you mention it?
Honestly, I think what most of our clients want more than anything is a new experience. And they're creating a new experience for themselves and for all of their guests. We really approach each client differently, like to really explore and connect with who they are as a person. Because the reality is that if you go in with this preconceived idea of what they want, you're never going to hit it. And so, we're all about asking open-ended questions and connecting with people and really understand and listen to what it is that you want to experience on this weekend. And then how can we help to provide that for you? That's really our goal.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a very good piece of advice, no matter what level you are shooting at.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a client, again, there are certain preconceptions that you have, and obviously you are hired because you have a certain talent and a certain style or whatever, but you still have to walk in with an open mind saying, maybe they want something other than that, or they have a different idea, and don't just start, boxing everything before you even get into the packaging department.
Because Alan, if you take genuine interest in people, they'll very quickly, especially on the client call like this, they'll show themselves very quickly and tell you what they want, right? So that genuine interest is the key.
Yeah. And as a photographer, it's so much fun to be able to come into with a new, fresh brief every single time. Like one client might want, hey, I want a fashion shoot in the middle of the wedding, right? Or the middle of the wedding day. I want my photos to have this feeling of editorial, or I just care about the small moments, the in-between moments with my closest friends and family. And so we get to bring these different briefs into each different project, as opposed to 15 years ago when I was doing this. I still remember being handed a photograph outside a hotel by one of the hotel workers and said, here's the photo that we do here at this time. Like, and so the expectation was like, okay, I'm going to set everything up exactly like this and push the button. And now I'm just a person pushing a button. And we don't experience that at all anymore.
Yeah.
I would hope not.
Yes.
How does it work now with destination weddings? How often do you suggest places, and how often does your client come to you and say, here's where we're having this? How's that break down?
I mean, for us, all of our events really go through wedding planners. So they handle all of that. What we do have happening sometimes, because we travel so much, is we have wedding planners coming to us saying, hey, we have a client thinking of this or that. What do you recommend? And so there we have the opportunity to speak to it more. But for the most part, everything runs through the planners and they kind of orchestrate the whole thing.
What's your connection with the planners now? How does that work?
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of work from them, or is it 50-50? What's the ratio of work that you generate as opposed to planners are referring you? How does it work?
Honestly, James, fair to say 90% of our work comes from planners.
Really?
So if you're in the middle of the market, a regular wedding photographer, your clients Google you, they look for you online. With a luxury client, they don't do that. They ask, right? They ask their planner, they ask their friends. And so the planner becomes absolutely critical. And we nurture those relationships above all.
Yeah. How do you cultivate the relationships with the planners? I've written articles about wedding photography where they even have conferences of wedding planners where certain photographers who are anointed get to mingle and things like that. Is that part of your experience?
Yeah, definitely. There is quite a few of those types of big events where they'll bring lots of different wedding professionals into the same room for multiple day-long retreat and events. But honestly, for us, it really is about, again, that personal connection as much as we can. Because what we really want is to support other wedding professionals and say, we're here to make this a collaborative effort. That's how we do our best work.
Yeah.
And so if we can actually build a genuine relationship with a wedding planner, that's the best position that we can be in, both from serving the client, but also from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Nurturing those relationships is something that we do on a daily basis.
We're not just bringing photography. We want to bring value beyond that, right? So how do you see this? What do you need? And that's that's how we bring value to those relationships over and over and over.
Now, when you are contacted through a planner, do they do all the billing or do you bill the client separately? How's that work?
We do all the contracting, all of our own billing.
Okay.
Occasionally, a planner might help us with transportation here or there, or a room block, something like that. But it really is everything running through us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they just merely make the introduction, the recommendation.
Yes, but they also are going to be, I mean, they're going to be there oftentimes on all the calls, the initial calls with the client, any kind of follow-up calls, because they're the ones really running the show.
Yes.
So we're all kind of listening, like, what does this client want? And then let's go figure out how to create that together.
Yeah.
Now, you just said something interesting. You said they're the one in charge. Who's higher in the pecking order, the planner or the caterer? Because my experience is that the caterer is the one who calls the shots.
Planner. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends on the caterer, right?
Yeah.
There are exceptions.
Yes. And the hotel, I would imagine. Like I could see in New York, some hotels working with, a specific caterer, and they're going to run that show because that's always such a sticking point. Like, when does this food need to come out? And we've heard the horror stories of like, oh, the photographer ran off with the bride and groom and we're gone for an hour and a half and all the steak is cold. And so.
I think, James, it really depends on who the caterer is, right? Because I think of someone like Francis Melman, who's the famous chef from South America. He's worked at a few of our events and he's certainly top of the pecking order when he arrives. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
It's good to have somebody else take the blame. I think that's okay.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with that as well.
A lot of pressure.
So a few years back, pre-COVID, destination weddings were like a huge trend. Is it a significant factor in your current wedding work? Is it still the way it was? Do you expect an increase in this avenue of business? What are the current trends?
In 2022, I think travel in general, destination weddings are no exception to that. Really, people wanted to get out. They wanted to move. They wanted to be around the world and experiencing new experiences again. And we definitely saw, Otto, we probably did almost quadruple the number of weddings that we normally do.
Huge,
Wow.
In 2022, just because there was so many postponements and then people just that wanted to get married weren't getting married. And 2022 just kind of blew that up. And everything that we do, we're traveling for. Yeah.
So was the rise in your business sort of throughout the year, or did it build from spring? Where in the process did it start to pick up after COVID?
Yeah, I would say, like, for us, since we started the business, we've doubled our business every single year. And so during the COVID year, 2020, it was the same.
Really?
The weddings it's amazing. The weddings actually a lot of our big weddings during 2020 became 30, 40, 50 person weddings, but still undeniably luxury, right?
Mm.
So our business actually grew during 2020.
Wow.
And then 2021, once the vaccines were out, you could feel it. There was like a pregnant pause, and then it just erupted. The demand, the need for people to get out and travel and experience was just overwhelming.
Mm.
And so 2021 and 2022 was absolutely crazy for us. I live in Mexico. James lives in Idaho. So we travel for everything. But we have watched in the last few months in the industry, especially amongst our education crowd, we can see there is a bit of a correction now, a bit of a slowdown. But that was to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, pandemics are very good for business, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
At least the high-end luxury business.
No, but Alan, that's a good point, right? Because this is what we found. The luxury client is recession-proof,
Yeah.
That's very true. Because I remember during the last economic crisis, I was reading a thing that like boat manufacturers were just dying left and right unless you were building boats over 100 feet long. Then there was a waiting list. 100 feet and above, you get online. Anything smaller than that, you got your pick of it, and you could just take them from people who've just gone out of business.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the other thing I would think of with the sort of high-end client would be the pandemic might have given them more time to not focus on business day to day, but to focus on, Yeah, we've, been talking about getting married for quite a while, but we've been so busy with everything. And now there's a pause in the business world. So let's dive in.
Yeah. And again, I think if you come from like generational wealth and there's that much resources, you can do whatever you want, right? You're not limited by anything. So if you want to go, you go.
Yeah.
We watched Aspen, Colorado blow up with, so many people from New York said, hey, for the pandemic, let's go live in the Aspen house. And, Aspen tripled its population overnight almost during the pandemic.
Yeah. Miami, Aspen, Telluride.
Yeah. And everybody bailed out of New York. That's for sure.
So we've been talking a lot about still photography. Are you primarily still shooters, or do you also do video? Or do you have other people doing video? How does that work?
No, we are exclusively still photographers.
Yeah. We're not smart enough to do video at it, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, I would find it a little bit schizophrenic to have to go back and forth between still and video, even though it's you're pushing a button, but it's a different mind think. It's a different...
So different.
Yeah, and to jump back and forth would be crazy. So you are primarily still, so if your client wants video, that's a separate team.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's a handful of videographers worldwide, like 4 or 5 that we love to collaborate with. So, yeah.
They took the same route that you did, so you're all in the same channel.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So I have a question about gear. When you first started working together, were you shooting the same brand of cameras and the same type of gear, or was there adjustments made there?
Yeah, Otto's more of the camera nerd, but we're both a bit schizophrenic. We're happy to change things up. So, at the time, 8 years ago, I think I was shooting Nikon, and I don't know, Otto maybe was just switching to Sony and Leica.
Yeah, Leica, yeah.
But since we've kind of been through multiple systems, and we're kind of always changing it up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what currently is your gear of choice?
My favorite little tandem right now is the Fuji GFX 100S, so medium format, and then a Leica Q. The flow between those two cameras to me is just, the one is slow and the quality is just out of this world, and the other one is just the ultimate snapshot documentary, the cameras. I like that little tandem.
Yeah. And I probably shoot 70 to 80% of my work is on the Leica Q also. It's a 28 millimeter lens, and I've been surprised to find myself so drawn to that. And then I shoot a Sony A7R IV with a 50 millimeter lens. Like, those are the two kind of my side by side. I also shoot the medium format as well, especially now I've just got a new lens for it. So I think it's going to probably shift the percentages a bit. But
no doubt.
Having owned a Q2 for a few months, I ultimately sold it because it wasn't doing what I needed to do. I could see that being an amazing camera to have at a wedding, because the image quality is phenomenal, and it's a fast lens, and it's a great focal length for reportage kind of shooting. And again, close-ups it does. And it's interesting that both of you tap into that particular camera. It's an interesting range of gear that you have. But I could see that being really an amazing fit for that kind of work, for sure.
Yeah, and for us, we keep it incredibly simple. It's a little camera bag, no gear, no tripods, just the Q and the Fuji. That's how we operate. Really light and simple.
And what about lighting?
Flash during the dance, I think in the reception for sure. But for the most part, just natural. The cameras nowadays are just out of this world for low light, right? Any situation, you just spin the wheel and it opens up. So most of our shooting is low light, most of it, 90%.
Yeah, because even when we're using flash, it's usually because we're bored, right? We're like, let's try something new. Let's throw a flash on there and see what we can do. Other than that, we're like, it's a candlelit room. So yes, while you can balance a flash, like, that doesn't really reproduce the feeling,
the atmosphere
of that environment. Yeah. Plus, it's very disruptive to like a beautiful candlelit, and now you have this bright light constantly going off.
Yeah. And James, the other thing is, if you bring in like world-class designers, you've spent millions of dollars on the design and the lighting and the shade of everything, and now you come in with a flash and you just wipe all of it out. Part of the skill at this level is being able to document it just as it was, right?
Yeah, get the atmosphere. So how high will you push your ISO?
On the Sonys and the Fuji, 40, 50,000 ISO.
Yeah, you can do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think of when we started out, there was no digital. I think of how far we've come, it's unbelievable. The gear is so good nowadays. It's just out of this world. It really is.
Well, and when you compare to like, say, pushing 3200 film, right? Compare that to what you can get at 40,000 ISO, like it's still better than pushing 3200 ISO film. Way better.
I have a Leica monochrome, and at 40,000, it's like shooting Tri-X in the old days. You can go pretty far, and it's amazing how low the light is that you can capture high quality imaging. It is,
yes.
And it's interesting that you are using that, because it seems that a lot of people, as soon as you say available light, they just kind of freak out that you can't do that at a wedding or something so formal as this. But the truth is, if you know what you're doing, you understand your equipment, you can.
Correct.
Yeah, you absolutely can. For me, in a 20-year career, I've never applied noise reduction to one image, not even one. Why? It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you expose it properly, right? Like that's what we see a lot of photographers doing. Like they get afraid of that ISO, so they tend to underexpose, and now you're trying to boost that image, and all sorts of noise comes back. Yeah.
Unless it's a Sony. If it's a Sony, you can honestly shoot the whole wedding like 7 stops underexposed, and you can just fix it. You just pull the slider the other way, and there it is. It's that good.
Not that we've ever done that.
No, of course not.
Of course
And not that we encourage sloppiness, okay? Yes, you can always fix it in post, but the trick is to get it right in camera the first time.
100%.
Let's go on record for that so we don't get crazy comments.
Exactly.
100%.
Okay, we are going to take a short break, and we return more with James Christianson and Otto Schulze. Stay tuned.
Dedicated to illuminating the moving image, ARRI lighting systems meet the needs of professional filmmakers everywhere. Whether it's through the versatility of the Orbiter directional LED, the soft cover of Sky Panel LED panels, or the high performance of the Daylight and Tungsten series Fresnels, ARRI is dedicated to producing design enhancements that match the swift pace of creativity and technology as they light the way beyond. Learn more about ARRI lighting products at bnh.com using the link in our podcast show notes.
Okay, we are back with James Christianson and Otto Schulze, and we're talking about high-end weddings and how to go about getting those kind of assignments and how to actually make them work. Jill, you had a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, so James and Otto, you guys started an education brand for luxury wedding photography recently called Sage. And in the program for Sage, you describe it as offering insights into the mindset and behaviors necessary to succeed in the luxury market. Can you elaborate on the mindset and behaviors you're looking to cultivate?
I think we've touched on a little bit kind of the mindset that you have to bring into sales and into working with that clientele, bringing in confidence, bringing in a new approach to how you look at your own work and look at value. Because for many photographers, whether you're charging $2,000 today and tomorrow I'm going to charge $4,000, overnight, you've created value out of nothing, right? So if you're a photographer that you're charging $8,000 and you want to charge $25,000 or $40,000, again, you're kind of creating this value overnight. And that can be a real challenge psychologically.
Right.
And so we're talking people through what is it that will allow you to bring more value to your clients and to the belief that you have in yourself.
Yeah. And honestly, one of the biggest shifts for us was moving it away from ourselves as artists and making it entirely about the client. Because I think most photographers struggle with this. They go into a meeting with a client, they go, hey, I'm the artist. Here's my story. Here's my work. Here's my vision. And we shifted it entirely from that to say, it's not about us at all. Tell us about you. And that really allows us to bring value to each individual client, right? So that was another big shift for us.
Right. What about the time frame involved in shooting luxury weddings, does that differ widely from the norm? Are people wanting to take things slower and sort of plan things out more strategically?
In speaking with wedding planners, it seems to me the luxury weddings are being planned in a shorter time frame.
Absolutely.
More and more post-COVID that's happening. And I'm not sure why. I think maybe the wedding planners that were really great at it, they're like, yeah, we can do it. Vaccines are out. And we wanted to have our wedding a year and a half from now, but let's do it in 6 months. And I think that happened so many times that it seems like that's almost the norm now.
Right. And I bet with travel and all that, there's an expectation that, well, there's a green light now, but what might be coming down the pike that it'll change that?
Right.
So
that's what created that boom in 21 and 22.
Interesting.
Just that. And I think what you're also seeing is if means, again, is no problem for you, you can plan a wedding really quickly, right? Okay, we have the means. Just book that property, book it. Let's go to Scotland, go, And so,
how quick is really quickly? A month, 2 weeks?
I mean, we've had them in a few weeks, right, James? We've had some that were that short.
Wow.
I think for the most part, I'd say 6 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had them as short as a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Just not with the level of production that is required. Especially during COVID, we had some that were happening in a month's time or 2 weeks, but not at the level that we typically see.
Right. In terms of the luxury and exotic, what is the most incredible wedding you've ever photographed?
I mean, we've photographed weddings in the Great Wall of China and all over, but probably the Lauren weddings, right?
Yeah. We can't share a lot of information about those, but a lot of our weddings are that way, where we've signed NDAs.
Right.
The Great Wall of China?
Yeah.
I've been there. Now, I'm in reasonably good shape, and those steps are really monsters to climb. You look at the pictures. You try climbing those things. Now, I'm thinking of elderly people with long gowns that are impossible to walk in as is, with heels and everything else. And you're on those I want to see those pictures. I really, really want to. I got to see that.
Yeah. Right next to the wall, built into the wall, is a little landing, and they kind of did the whole thing there. So everybody was kind of transported up to that. Nobody had to climb the wall.
Because that would be the video I'd want to see, actually. I could sit down with a big box of popcorn and just watch that. All these dressed up people trying to climb those steps. Anyway, you make a distinction between premium and luxury. What is the difference between these two, and how do you approach them? What's the deal with that?
That's kind of a distinction we've made within our education. Because as you can imagine, most people aren't able to jump from, I'm going to charge $5,000 today to charge $40,000 for a wedding tomorrow. And there are different strata. So that's kind of our own nomenclature, if you will, on kind of how to stratify the weddings that are happening. I think maybe a total spend budget might be the best way to describe what a premium wedding would be. And I would say that probably is going to fall in the, Otto, $100,000 to $500,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's going to be somebody who's successful. They're a lawyer, they're a doctor, they're an architect. They're doing well, but they may not have generational wealth. They may not own a big corporation, be hedge fund managers. That type of wealth. Where luxury is going to be a total spend of anywhere from $500,000 to 10, 15 millions on a wedding.
Yeah. My question would be with those really high-end weddings and with the idea that those luxury clients don't have the same buying philosophy, do they come in with a budget in mind, or is it just open-ended? And then how do you grapple with that?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, there's a spectrum. Sometimes they come in with a budget. Other times there's no budget. But to our point earlier about the buying psychology, we've learned even if they come in with a budget and we know there's means, you can create that value and push them beyond what they wanted to spend, right? We've had clients come in and say, oh, we want to spend $20,000. And when we're done, they've spent almost $60,000, right? Just by creating that want. So there's a bit of a spectrum.
And what are the aspects of the want that are making that difference?
I mean, I think it's real personal to each client, right? Because luxury clients, for lack of a better word, aren't all the same. They're quite different. You can photograph a wedding and dad owns whatever, Walmart or the moon, and the bride and groom is just two regular kids, just two shy kids. So what they want is different for each client. And this is why for us, if somebody inquires, we don't just send pricing. We say, let's connect on the call, because we want to sit with them, whether that's on a Zoom or whatever, and understand what that is. We want to look for those points, right? Sit on a Zoom call, maybe there's a mom on the call, and you kind of watch people during the call, right? You can see, oh, mom is really important here. And then you can kind of start creating want with mom as opposed to the bride and groom. So it really depends.
Actually, one thing you talk about in some of your course materials is the importance of story. How do you conceptualize and develop a particular client's story to meet or exceed even their expectations? How do you find that story?
Yeah, again, going back to connecting, and sometimes we don't have a lot of time with a client, but asking good questions, what is important to you? Like, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are you worried about at this wedding? What are your hopes and dreams? Like, what's the experience you want for your guests? And just really sitting and understanding that. Because we say it over and over, so many photographers go into this with the mindset of, this is going to be a photo shoot. I'm going to make amazing photographs.
Yeah.
But that's not really our approach. Yes, we're going to make beautiful photographs, but it's not a photo shoot. It's a wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you go in with this idea of, hey, I'm going to stop the entire flow and the experience that people are having so that I can make this award-winning image, you literally are ruining people's weddings. You're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is come in to that space and effortlessly give them the experience that they want and hopefully add to it. We say often, if we're not at your wedding, we really feel your wedding's going to be different.
Yeah.
We're going to add a level of experience that nobody else will.
Yeah.
I would imagine also, if I may just interject, that when you're trying to come up with where's the story here, and basically any assignment has that same thing. What is the story? What is the story we're trying to tell?
Yeah.
Where is it? Where's the pony? And I would imagine that you were talking a few minutes ago about speaking with the client personally and finding out, who's in charge here? Is it mom? Is it and then if you could key into who that person is, who's actually the alpha male or female here, for lack of better descriptions, you could probably get a lot of clues as to where you should be taking the story or what the story is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once they inquire with us, they've already kind of bought the brand story of James X Schulze, right? Which is out there for them. But you're right. We said it earlier. It's that genuine interest. You take genuine interest in somebody. You're really listening. I think that's the biggest skill you can have in our line of work, in any line of work. My wife will tell you in marriage, that would be a good skill for me to have. But genuinely listening to somebody, they'll tell you so much, right? As opposed to what James just said, as a typical wedding photographer, you come in with a preconceived narrative, an idea. You're really going to miss that. You're not even paying attention for it. You're not looking for it, right? And that's all we look for. On the call, with the planner, on the wedding day, welcome party, rehearsal dinner, we're looking at people, right? And that's what we're playing with more than anything.
Well, and all the little subplots that are occurring, not only that you learn about on a call, but if you're paying attention, what you're learning about at a wedding day, how, the great aunt, who's really more like her mother than her actual mother, is flown in from Indiana and she hasn't seen her for 8 years. And, to just take Aunt Rita aside and make a beautiful portrait of her.
Yeah.
Because you've heard this, that is something that many are going to miss. And they're going to get that email and go, you know what? Aunt Rita was there and I don't have a single photograph of her. So it's important for us to dig into all of the subplots as well that are happening.
That's also why I always recommend that wedding photographers get a hold of the security tapes from the venue. Like that, if need be, you do have a shot of you just pop it in there somehow.
That's a great idea.
You're talking about listening to the client. And I think an important takeaway is that advice, listening to your client, you go in there because you are who you are and they called you in because of who you are and what you do. But that's just the starting point. And again, I don't care if it's a wedding or they called you in to photograph a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
You have to listen. What is your client trying to say about that bowl of cereal?
100%.
But Alan, that's such a good point, right? Because the bowl of cereal, that's a commercial photography job, right? So they'll sit with an agency and get briefed. And you listen to the brief, and then you assemble your team and you approach it accordingly. Where in the wedding industry, for the most part, the photographers don't listen to the brief. They have that preconceived idea locked down, right? With our approach, it informs the work, right? The work is better because you're genuinely interested in your client, right? I now know the bride is really, her grandma is here and she's really old. I know this because we gathered that information. And so on the weekend, I'm tracking grandma. I'm spending more time with her. And so that return to the client is even better, again, because of interest.
So switching the focus from photographing the wedding to teaching others how to cultivate luxury wedding clients, how do you go about that? What's your approach to teaching this subject?
We've taken what I hope is a pretty simple approach in that, we've been in business separately for 20 years, but together for 7 years. And as Otto said before, we've managed to double our business every year since we started this. And so the approach we took in education was to sit down and talk through everything that we've done to date to get to the point where we're at. And then everything that we're doing on a daily basis to maintain that level of business acumen, if you will. So much of it is about business and not about the work. We often say, at some point, the quality of the work stops mattering. Because if you're going to be a professional luxury wedding photographer, you better have damn good work.
That's a given.
That's
Right.
the given. So there's so many photographers that say, oh man, if my work could just get better to X level, I could have a better business. But the reality is, if I could just be a much better business owner, my work will be facing the right way, if you will. We joke often that we sometimes have a billboard that has great message and it's facing the wrong way, facing into the forest and nobody can see it. You're like, I've got the greatest photography in the world and nobody sees it. So how do you turn that billboard around?
Good point.
Now, that's an interesting point there. That's a very good point.
It's all about experience, right? Because I can step up to a bride and take the most award-winning, amazing portrait in the world. Or I make her feel amazing. And the photograph I end up taking is okay. She'll love the second one way more because you made her feel great. The experience was exceptional. And if you can combine both great photography and that intention and that experience for them, now you're winning.
That's what goes over the top.
Yeah, that's right.
So the course that you're offering is focused on luxury weddings, which is, I'm sure, a very small and exclusive audience. Do you have any concerns about spreading the word and saturating the market?
You know what, Jill, it's interesting. For me, for many years, James was saying, we should do education. And my objection was exactly what you just said. I'm not going to give away our intellectual property, right? Why would we do that? But what we've come to realize is whether you're willing to put in the work, the consistency of it, and there's few that will do that, right? So for us, the luxury wedding space has transformed our lives and our families' lives. The lives we get to live now is just truly exceptional. And so now for us, whoever we can give that opportunity to, we're like, game on, take it. Here's everything we do. You do it, And that's really exciting for us. I think
consistency is the key word there. It's keeping that up over time and expanding on that experience that you offer to your clients.
Yeah. And to add on to what Otto is saying, what we teach, while there are parts of it that are very specific to the luxury market, 85% of it can help most photographers get from, middle of the market up into a more premium. Hey, I just want to double my prices from wherever that is. How can I run a better business? It really can serve most wedding photographers that have, anywhere from 3 to 10 years of experience.
Yeah.
The course is probably not for beginners.
Yeah.
It's positioned, we hope, well to help a broad range of photographers.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your education site and how people can find out about that.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook community that I think is the easiest entry point for people because it's a free resource. It's a great community. It's growing every day. And a lot of like-minded people there answering a lot of questions. We've tried to create a community that is a safe place to ask difficult questions.
Yeah.
The Business of Luxury Weddings is the name of that Facebook group. If you want to find us on the web, it is www.sagejourney.co. And on Instagram, sagejourney.co.
Yeah.
And all of this will be in the show notes. So it's easy to follow up on this. And we strongly urge our listeners to check it out. There's some wonderful information there. And by the way, we're talking about high-end weddings here. But as we mentioned a few times, a lot of the things we've been talking about here today have to do with running a good business, a good photography business or otherwise. Again, listening to your client, that's not a magic thing. That's something you should be doing. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're doing weddings or boxes of cereal. It's part of it. And if you can communicate with your client, understand what they want, and deliver exactly what they want, man, that's how you stay in business. That's what it's about.
And that's the exciting part, Alan. I think a lot of photographers think we're special, right? So I can't do it. You guys are special. And we're saying to our audience, we're not special. We just figured out what to do, and we're going to tell you what that is. So it's up to you.
Yeah, just put your head there.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, we were talking on another episode about when you're hired by, say, a corporation to do corporate portraits of all the head muckety-mucks of a company and stuff like that. And you deal with people who can be very, very intimidating.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they hired you to photograph these people. Why? Because you're good at what you do, just like they're good at what they do. So when you walk into that room, even though that monetarily you might not earn the same money that they do at the end of the year, and you may not live in a house as big as theirs, but they hired you to come and make them look good.
Yeah.
So you are equals in that sense. And that's something you have to keep in your mind to be successful.
Yeah.
That when you walk in, you're talking to an equal. They hired you.
Yeah.
You're sitting there.
100%.
Carry yourself that way.
Yeah.
100%. And we're human beings. And if you take the perspective of human beings have value, like there is no one other human being that is, because they have $1 million and I don't, makes them more valuable as a human being. And it's easy to go in with interest, with that kind of a mindset and with confidence.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You guys have any interesting weddings coming up? Anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, next one up is Argentina, right, James? In a few weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to Argentina and beautiful property just outside Buenos Aires. So excited for that. Very excited.
James Christianson, Otto Schulze, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a wonderful conversation. And good luck on your future weddings and adventures.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Jill. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun.
An absolute pleasure.
Ours too. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you are a fan of the show, but not yet a subscriber, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts and click subscribe. You can also find us on the Explorer blog where we post photos from our guests and show notes. And please join us on Facebook at the B&H Photography Podcast group, where you can share your favorite photos and comments about the show. I'm your host, Alan Weitz. Jill Waterman is our senior creative producer. Episodes are recorded, mixed, and edited by technical producer Mike Weinstein. Our executive producer is Jeremy Weiss, and our editorial director is Sean Steiner. On behalf of all of us, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.
Thanks to Ari for sponsoring this week's episode.